Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Tales of the Valiant CR Exposed. On today's episode we are looking at the Darkmantle, where, it's just a conversion from 5th edition to Tales of the Valiant that Kobold Press has done. But before we get into looking to see if this CR 1/2 follows true for this monster, let's talk about the business real quick. If you like what I'm doing here and you'd like to get this tool for yourself to use to make your own Tales of the Valiant custom monsters, go ahead and hit the link in the description below to hit up my Ko-fi page where you can get the tool completely for free, or you can donate if you feel so inclined to. Also, if you'd like to suggest a monster for me to review here for Tales of the Valiant, leave a comment on the video because I do not have a Google form set up for this one. I'll need you to appease the algorithm overlords. Also, if you like what I'm doing here and you feel like donating to the cause, you can either join my YouTube channel here, and for as little as $1 a month you can get quick early access to all my videos, as well as some members only stuff like my conversions from 5th edition to Tales of the Valiant. And or you can also donate over at my Ko-fi page, and I will work out some stuff there to make sure that your donations are worthwhile. Alright, so with the business out of the way, let's take a look at the Darkmantle here. So our Darkmantle should be a CR 1/2, and because I'm using the 0 to -3 scale with my little note here, you'll see that a 0 is actually a CR 1/2. So our monster should have 11 to 13 AC, about 25 hit points, which we can see here it does have 25 hit points, 3 to 4 attack bonus, 8 to 10 DPR, and 11 to 13 save DC. Now, let's go ahead and start throwing some numbers in here. So you'll see that we have our stat modifiers here. We're not actually using numbers. Tales of the Valiant doesn't use the full numbers, it only gives the modifiers. And to be honest, we don't really use the numbers after the fact that the stuff has been generated, even for our characters. Now we'll go ahead and start throwing these in. So this is going to be a +3, a +1, another +1, a -4, a 0, and a -3 for those respective parts. Now, if we have anything here that has proficiencies, we'll probably see those later on in the character sheet, or the monster sheet I should say, and we will adjust as according. Now we will go back to the top here, and I probably should move some stuff around here so it just kind of flows with the monster stats, so that'll probably be an update I'll make a little later on, but it's only really cosmetic. So, starting at the top, we have 11 AC, which our monster does have based off of its dexterity. Then we also know that we have 25. Currently you're seeing adjusted, but that's because certain things haven't been put into place just yet, because this tool is more automated than my 5th edition version. And then we look at the speed. Now, its land speed is 10 feet, but we do have a fly speed of 30. And since the fly speed is more than likely going to be its main mode of transportation, and it's not below 30 feet, we don't have to really worry about adding that in. Otherwise, we would come down here to the speed and make sure one of these is below 30, and then that would update the tool here as well. And that would give a bonus to hit points because the creature is slower and can't get to the targets as fast. Next, we have perception and stealth. That's only important for creating the monster. We do have resistance with monstrosity resilience. We'll see that in a little bit once we get down to the bottom here. We have keen sense of 60 feet dark vision, or keen vision, and languages. So pretty much everything else here is null and void. We don't have to really worry about it. We've got our stats already set up, so let's start looking at the monster traits. We have echolocation, so the Darkmantle can't use its keen sense while deafened. That's not going to affect us here. We also have false appearance. Again, another thing that's not going to affect its CR value. We do have jagged hide though, and a creature that hits the Darkmantle with a melee attack while within 5 feet of it takes 2 piercing damage. So from that, we will go ahead and throw this into, let's see here, multi-target on hit effect. So on hit effects, use this section when your monster has something that deals damage when hit, such as large spikes or a fire aura. So in this case, we do have jagged hide, and we will go ahead and throw in the 2.5 DPR here. Now we're going to do 2.5 because it's an odd number of dice. If you take the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, add them up, and then divide by 4, you'll see that the average comes out to 2.5. So the half a die is actually really important here. Now, because this is an on-hit effect, and we are more than likely expecting to be hit by 2 creatures per round, it gets doubled here. The only time it would be less is if we had a save DC, but since this effect doesn't have a save DC and it just happens, we're doubling it for at least 2 attacks. Next, we have Monstrosity Resilience. So the Darkmantle is resistant to exhaustion and to the Frightened condition. Now, this is only 2 effects, and I'll put these in just for the sake of having them in here. And we're going to have, resistant to exhaustion, and also resistant to Frightened. Now, what this does is just gives advantage on rolling these checks or anything that would cause exhaustion or Frightened, and we would get the better results, obviously. If we were to add in one more, you'll see in the negative effects that we would get a modifier here. So let's say, just for instance, it was also resistant or immune to blinded, then the creature that has 3 or more resistances or immunities would get this modifier here. So we're going to go ahead and reset this to 0, and the modifier goes away. Next, let's move over to the actions and bonus actions for our Darkmantle. Now, our first one here is Crush. So let's go back up to the top, and we're going to see that we are looking for +5 to hit, and our attack bonus using Strength alone, because our Strength is our higher modifier, is going to be a 5. Perfect. We are going to use this, and we are actually expecting a lower attack bonus. So our creature should have a negative modifier for having a higher attack bonus here. Now, the funny part is that for whatever reason, after talking with the developers, they don't really take into account the attack bonus, and I have a position here for when this is the case. So in theory, right now, we should be reducing the creature's hit points by -5, but this is a experimental feature and isn't taken into account by the developers, which I think they do a great job with everything, but this should have been taken into consideration because attack bonus is equivalent to armor class, and because they are so concerned with the armor class, they should have also taken this into consideration. So we'll look at that and see what the potential experimental reduction is after the fact. All right, so we have our +5 to hit. Our creature is dealing 1d6 +3 from the strength. As you see here, our average is getting 6.5 because we have one odd number of dice. We have that half a die to add in here. And then, let's see here, the Darkmantle attaches to it. The target is a medium or smaller creature. It has advantage on attack rolls, which technically we could say Pact Tactics as well. Excuse me. But let's continue on for the time being here, because the attack has to first land, and then we would get advantages after that as long as it stays on. What else have we got here? The target is blinded and unable to breathe, so it's suffocating the target. While attached, the Darkmantle can make crush attacks. So let's go ahead and throw in our attack here to the first, to the first combat workspace here. For the first attack, we're going to have 6.5, and we have attack conditions. Now we're causing blinded and basically suffocation, which in my opinion is 2 effects here. So for the conditions, we use the single in the drop down if the monster is causing 1 condition, or we use multiple if it's causing 2 conditions. Now, technically the exhaustion, I believe, is a second condition, so let's go ahead and throw in multiple for now. This will up the DPR for our, for our crush only by half a point. Excuse me, and bring that up to 7. From there, while attached, Darkmantle can't crush attacks, and at the start of the Darkmantle's turn, the target takes an additional and immediate 6 damage. The attached Darkmantle moves with the target and can't be removed without a strength check. So we have that going in for us here. So basically, after we get 1 attack, we have free damage every turn thereafter, which is interesting. How would we consider adding that kind of damage in here, considering the attacks have to be taken into account 5, but while it's attached, it just gets free attacks. Something I'll have to think about for a minute here. But let's move on to Topple. While attached to a creature, the Darkmantle swings its body to throw off the balance of the creature. The creature must make a dex save or be knocked prone. If the target fails the save and is already prone, it is restrained while the Darkmantle is attached to it, and the Darkmantle pins it to the ground. So this is another action here that is going to cause another condition, but because we're already doing the damage here, this is Topple and Crush are basically going to be the same thing, because we technically can't crush again. We're still getting the free damage. We can cause this save DC, and we don't really have anything that's causing a save DC but could knock it prone. We're going to keep everything the same here. And then lastly, we have our bonus action. Darkness Aura. Once per day, 15-foot radius of magical darkness extends from the Darkmantle, moves with it, and spreads around corners. It lasts for 10 minutes, dark vision can't penetrate, and so on and so forth. Now, when I talked to the developers about the mage, I think it was the CR6 mage, and the issues with defensive spells, they basically say that you don't really worry about defensive spells because it usually takes an action. But in this case, we have the Darkness Aura that's using a bonus action. So we should have something down here that causes this kind of a problem. Let me take a look here and find it. So after reviewing a few items here, the closest thing technically would be maybe the bonus action here of reactions, legendary actions, or similar effects that paralyze, petrify, stun, or makes unconscious. But because we're not doing that and we're just making the targets that attack it have disadvantage on the attack because of the Darkness Aura and being hidden, I would likely say that this is just a random -5 modifier, but let's move on to the actions first and throw all that into calculations, because at the moment, it looks like, yeah, we're getting a bonus here, but that I'm sure will work itself out in a minute here. So right off the bat, we are getting one attack, and we are getting the on-hit effect every round of combat. And I'm just going to throw these into the concentration here because we're doing this every round of combat, and we can only do one or the other, which are basically the same for our attacks, and we are ending up with 12. So we are seeing that we have an overage of 2 in damage here, which means we are losing 5% hit points. Now that's fascinating because our Darkmantle here has a hit points of 25, which means something should be balancing out. And I'm not seeing anything that would cause to get a bonus anywhere, because the bonuses should be coming from up here, and there's not many. So unless they're giving the creature maybe the bonuses from the speed, which they really shouldn't, because this is an automatic effect, and you know it can fly 30 feet, and it's not the primary speed. I would say that, you know, technically this should be 23 hit points. Now, with that in mind, and it only losing technically 2 hit points, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things may not be a lot, but at such a low level where, you know, 2% is what, somewhere around like 7% difference. That's actually kind of big, 2 hit points, especially with characters that are only swinging for anywhere between, on average, 5 to 8 damage, maybe, or casting spells for about that much. But also, let's take a look here at the one effect here that I was talking about, because the attack bonus is a little high, and this is an experimental feature. We're going to go ahead and check this as well. Now, because of that, we should be losing 10%, which means we should be down another couple hit points, and sure enough, we lose 1 more. So, all in all, that's not a huge make or break here. 3 hit points is not that big of a deal, but who knows in the grand scheme of things. If anything, the 25 hit points is probably fine for the Darkmantle here. But beyond that, this is a pretty well balanced monster for the rules that Tales of the Valiant has put out for their monster creation. Alright, well, thank you so much for joining me for a look at the Darkmantle from the Monster Vault in Tales of the Valiant, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.